Well, good morning, everyone. This is Keith with Positively Osceola, another one of our Osceola live shows here in Central Florida. And so often we talk about the wonderful guests we have that are really doing great things in and around the community. And today is another example of that. Certainly a special morning. Most folks know that the school district of Osceola County will be having a new superintendent. And that would be Dr. Mark Shanoff. And today he is with us. I'll give the little bio before I bring him in. And Dr. Shanoff received his Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education at Rollins College, his Master of Science in Educational Leadership at Nova Southeastern University, a Master of Business Administration from the University of Florida, and his doctorate in education at the University of Central Florida. And so this morning, we'd like to welcome Dr. Mark Shanoff. How you doing?
Good morning, Keith. It's great to be here.
Super to have you here. I know this has been a busy time in your life for sure. And so thanks for taking a couple minutes and saying hi to us. I had the pleasure of meeting you and speaking to you at the district's finalist evening when over Valencia. And that was, we were talking about this earlier, it was such a well done event and just a blast really to speak to everybody. I'm sure you felt the same.
I did. So, as a candidate, you're very anxious in that type of environment, but everybody was so friendly and everybody was so positive. It really made a huge difference for not just me, but for the other finalists. And we remarked about that after the event. And just all of us just had a very positive feeling about the residents that came out, the leadership that came out to meet us. And I think all of us left very enthused, and certainly I did. And you kind of look at that experience as whether or not it's going to be a good marriage
Right.
between the community and your leadership, your personality. And I certainly came away from that event thinking to myself, what a great place and what a great opportunity.
Yeah, it certainly was. It had been certainly a long process to get to that point, no doubt, and it was a great evening. I agree with you. A lot of positive feedback. A lot of people just out wanting to meet people. Be a part of the whole process and be advocates for the school district for sure. So we've got some people popping on real quick. I'm going to make it official if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Let's do it. Well, again, our guest today is the next superintendent with the school district of Osceola County, Dr. Mark Shanoff. And how are you doing again, sir?
I'm doing great, Keith. I'll tell you what, maybe I could just open my day with that opening and nothing could go wrong. I love it. I'm having a great day. Very excited to get started tomorrow night.
Well, it's a busy week, and we're glad you could allow us to be with you this morning. So I'm going to get right at it because we're going to be a lot of stuff to talk about for sure. And you have a busy day ahead of you for sure. So we'll get you going with that. So with more than 69,000 students in kindergarten through 12th grade in 60 schools, students in the Osceola School District represent 140 different countries and speak over 98 languages. That's more than 17,102 students. About 25% of the total student population participate in the school district's English speakers of other language, their ESOL program. So that certainly brings challenges, being that Osceola County is one of the fastest growing counties in Florida, if not the nation, as the district looks to find balance between providing the best education for the students, while at the same time attracting new teachers, retaining teachers, new staff, and other school-related employees. So you're here, you have the job. So how do you start? Where do you start?
So I think that the best place for me to start is by listening. One of the things that I mentioned during the interview process is that I believe that the talent already resides within Osceola County. And I believe that institutional knowledge exists, not just exists among the workforce, but also among the students, the parents, and the community. So it's important for me to listen first, because I'm the one that's coming in new to the community. And so it's important for me to curate all of that knowledge, all of that expertise, all of those opinions into a comprehensive plan that we can use in order to move the school district forward. Interestingly enough, throughout my career, I've worked in either schools or districts that have been very diverse. And I think that the most important thing that we can do is really flatten the organization, so then we feel a lot closer than it would indicate with 69,000 students spread across, however many different buildings and square miles of the county. So I think that if we can go ahead and find some commonality, at least in what the educational experience should look like, I think that the important thing, though, is to never lose sight of what the expectation is for all of our students. And the expectation for all of our students should be success. And there should be no doubt about it. There should be no corners cut in order for our students to achieve what they want to achieve out of life. For a lot of our kids, that's going to college. For a lot of our kids, that's going straight into a career. And for many of the other students, it's joining, say, the military. And so we want our students to be able to fulfill their lifelong dreams and pursue their interests, no matter where they come from or whatever challenges they may face. Their success should be guaranteed in Osceola County schools.
That's great. And so, and we kind of mentioned a few things before we went live this morning. So it seems like education, I guess because it's post-COVID, because of the whole impact from the pandemic, the education, the teaching profession seems to be much different now, right? You live it, your experiences. If I'm correct, obviously it's elementary, middle, and high school. You're versed in all of those levels, which is a great thing. I think probably something the district, those who were hiring, certainly looked at and thought that was awesome, which it is. And so, we're in a time now where education and then profession again it's talked about a lot nationally. So how do we get to a place again where teachers feel like that have that passion, that have that desire, they want to make positive differences in the kids' lives? How do we get that back in a place where we're not hearing national media talk it down all the time? Because it happens. But boy, when you talk in a local, the relationships we have with the teachers, when you talk to them, those are some of the most passionate people that have ever been anywhere working. And it's how does that strike you? How do we get back to that place?
So great question, because you're right. It seems like the teaching profession has come under the microscope in a way that it hasn't ever in history. Right. And so it has been at the cross section of a lot of kind of our political discussions, our social discussions. And so I think what we need to do is we need to get back to the main thing. So the reason why teaching is the greatest profession in the world is because there is nothing better and nothing more important than the relationship between a teacher and a student. A student's trajectory in life can change just purely based on that relationship with a teacher, or a significant relationship that they have with a coach, something of that nature. And so I think that especially having had the experience of being a building administrator during COVID, and then being a district administrator during COVID, I was able to see two different perspectives. And one of the things that my teachers really struggled with was, well, I don't want to get sick. And so what I used to share with our teachers is all you need to do is go in. You need to go ahead and do the best job that you possibly can, focusing in on the skills that our students need to know. That is your job. That is your focus. Everything else, if we take the proper precautions, will take care of itself.
Sure.
What we need to do is we need to get back to the main thing. And why did folks become teachers? They became teachers because they want to make a difference in the lives of kids. And we talk about education in several different ways. But at the end of the day, you have to go back to that relationship between a teacher and a student. We need to make sure that we are building up our teachers so then we actually highlight the joys of the profession. Right. Because sometimes they're few and far between. Sometimes you get into the grind of the school year and gosh, I've had a tough day or a tough couple days, and you just feel like you're running in place. But at the end of it, you've got to be able to look back and you got to say, from day one to now, my kids have made a lot of progress. And I've made a lot of progress in getting to know them and understanding their strengths and their weaknesses, and their success is guaranteed as long as they're in my classroom.
Right. I love it. I agree with everything you just said. We had a chance to speak of ESC. One of the questions I wanted to mention, I've got some friends that are involved at ESC, amazing educators, passionate educators. So let's talk about how you see that particular portion of the school district. So, I mentioned to you earlier, my son spent most of his public education years within ESE, and it was an amazing thing to watch the school district wrap their arms around an individual student and max out that kid's potential. And as I said, now he's got a 3.92 in college, and it just is something that I and my wife and I both attribute to amazing education, amazing individuals teaching. How do you feel? How do you see the ESC program or the whole focus of ESC and School District of Osceola County move forward?
So thank you for that question, and congratulations to your son. And there's no doubt that that strong belief in those teachers that helped him develop the skills and strategies that allowed him to ingest the information that came so easy maybe to somebody else who didn't have those same struggles. Those teachers are worth their weight in gold, and so they should be thanked and they should be lauded for everything that they were able to do and continue to do. So I haven't been shy through this process of talking about my own struggles as an ESC student in school. And I actually didn't come to a psychoeducational evaluation diagnosis until high school, which meant that a lot of schooling was very, very difficult for me. At the end of the day, ESC students can learn at high levels, and the expectation should be that ESC students learn at high levels. But that belief has to be essentially everywhere around that child. That belief has to be rooted in school leadership. It has to be rooted in teacher interaction. It has to be rooted in their peer relationships. It has to be rooted at home. And so it is absolutely vital for that partnership to exist between the school and home, so that we can find the best avenue and the best strategies to get the most out of that student, so then they can learn the content at the same high level that their non-ESE peers are learning. And for us, that is our charge. There is no different expectations from our ESE students than anybody else. But I'll tell you just from personal experience that there are two things that I needed when I was in school. I needed belief from my teachers that I could learn at high levels. And I also needed that teacher or group of teachers to know that there were going to be a lot of days where it was going to be trial and error. What was going to work for me one day may not necessarily work the next, or with whatever content I'm trying to learn. And so I needed different opportunities to develop schema in order for me to learn at the same rate as everybody else and be able to understand the content at the same level. And so our ESE teachers deserve support. Our ESE students deserve the same opportunities to learn as their non-ESE peers. And we will make sure that the ESE advisory committee that has been stood up by our school board is listened to. Those recommendations that came in April are vital to how we move forward. I intend to meet with that group and ensure that the recommendations that they did bring forward are operationalized into our school system.
That's awesome. I know the relationships my wife and I have with the ESE teachers, we find them to be extraordinary, certainly passionate and not shy. Not typically shy. It's all good. That's part of it, I think. So thanks for all that. So how do you plan to engage? And I think you kind of mentioned this a little bit. How do you plan to engage and collaborate with teachers, with parents, community stakeholders to create that more supportive and positive educational environment?
So I think, again, it goes back to listening. And so what I'll be doing in my first 100 days will be going on a bit of a listening tour. And so I will be making a stop at each one of our 10 traditional high schools, and I'll be engaging teachers and staff members for the first hour, and then the second hour will be with parents and community. And really, I want to just find out three things. What's going really, the things that we could work on or do a little bit better, opportunities for growth. And then the third thing is, how can the district best communicate with you? And so I think that if we tackle those three things, we'll be able to call all of that information. We'll be able to develop a strategy of how to move forward, where we can really accentuate the positives, where we can eliminate the negatives, and where we can communicate with one voice to the entire community and ensure that the community feels very comfortable being the wind at the back of the school districts, where they see a very valuable experience for their students, or maybe if they don't have kids in the system anymore, their next door neighbors, or just the kids in the neighborhood. And so that's going to be vital to how we move forward. So at the end of the 100 days and at the end of those visits, those discussions, I'll pull together all of that information for the board and present it as a report. And then the board can work with me and we can develop how we move forward. And I think that this will be the launching point for the next generation of the strategic plan, which as of right now, we're going into year 5 of 5. So I think it's important for us to now kind of look forward on what the next generation of strategic planning looks like for Osceola County schools. And so we'll actually use that information, that feedback from our teachers, from our staff members, from our parents, from our community, in a way that's very empowering for them, and demonstrates that the community can get behind the next strategic plan.
Excellent. Well said. And we're going to keep moving here. So I know you're aware of Neo City Academy, certainly, and that expansion. A lot of people don't know that particular school, which has been, greatly successful, is expanding, basically doubling. So with, and I think this is in your wheelhouse big time. So with all the technological advancements, we all see it. Certainly, every day is a new thing technologically. And that's kind of where that's what we are a part of as well. Certainly, the launch of publicly the launch of AI, and we constantly hear the changes. Correct. So that is not on its own island. That certainly is affecting what we do, how our kids learn, what they're learning. So what do you do to make sure that we're as a school district not behind that curve? How do we make sure that those kids that are coming out, the kids that are going to leave the school district after they graduate, how do we know that they are integrated into that technological world? And did the pandemic kind of amp that up as well? How we learn, how those kids learn now technology-wise?
So I think that that's where Osceola County actually is quite unique, because what we have is we're actually starting to see where agriculture and where technology kind of meet, right? So and it will happen here in Osceola County. So we need not just look at the future of technology kind of within this vacuum of making sure that students have, certain certifications and that they're employable right away. They've got a good launching point of being competitive when they apply to colleges and those types of things. But I think it's also looking at the community as a whole, and understanding that we have a very diverse economy in Osceola County, and we want to make sure that the advancements, the technological advancements that are occurring, say, in agriculture, we meet those as fast as we're meeting the technological changes that are occurring, say, in computer science.
Right.
So yes, NeoCity was actually my first entry point into Osceola County schools when I came down for a visit. I was looking at it from the construction angle when I was over construction in Volusia County. But what I found was that technology kind of just changes the learning environment, and it can't replace the learning environment. Right. I think that that's a big distinguishing characteristic, that a lot of people just assume that technology will take over the educational experience. No. The teacher is still the primary driver in the educational experience of a child. It doesn't matter if they are implementing technology tools, but if there's not a teacher there to show the value of the technology and allow the student to interact with that technology, then at the end of the day, the technology is useless. It's just kind of there. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that as technology grows, certainly the cadre of tools that our teachers have in their toolkit will also continue to grow. So we need to make sure that our teachers are empowered to kind of to think more entrepreneurially about the student experience, and making sure that technology is infused into what we do, because we do know that our students are more technologically inclined than, say, maybe you and I are, or we were in school. But I think that that's what excites kids is the experience that teachers bring. And so we want to make sure that as we make adjustments with technology, and as we make adjustments in the opportunities that we're providing kids, that we keep that in mind, that it is still about that experience and how the technology is presented to the student, but then also ensuring that we are meeting the demands of our local economy, because the local economy is representative of the global economy. And so that includes agriculture, and it includes kind of the high-tech corridor that seems to be moving in.
Yeah, that describes our county very well. Certainly you've done a lot of research on that. You know where that's headed. So you mentioned construction. So I think we'll close with this a little bit, and kind of slightly repetitive. So I think everybody realizes, right? This is the secret's out. So Osceola County, Central Florida, great place to live. And with that, certainly a lot of pressure on the school district in a number of different ways. One being, how do we construct facilities? How do we afford to construct facilities? Where do those facilities go? So you are steeped in that particular area, and you've got the experience in it. So how do you see us? How do you see us trying to? I'm not sure that we can get ahead of it, but how do we refocus ourselves so that maybe we are able to get those facilities built, given the challenges that exist around that whole idea?
Great question. And I think that there's actually two components to this. So you as an organization, you have to be more dynamic than, say, school districts, than other school districts have to be, because Osceola County is the 10th fastest growing county in the country. So knowing that, we can no longer operate like a small district. And so that's what I was hearing from the board, is that as we move forward, we actually have several challenges. In order to meet the challenge of building schools and building spaces for our students to learn in, you first need to kind of create the infrastructure within the district to account for that growth. The problem is that if you do not build the infrastructure within the school district to account for that growth, and you wait for that growth to occur, it will take you 10, 15, 20 years in order to catch up to that growth.
Sure.
The idea of being able to find land and find resources really requires the school district to work with not just developers, but also the county commission, and make sure that we're completely aligned on our mission and how we account for growth and how we do this responsibly. And I do think that when you bring all those heads together, we will be able to kind of scale up, especially if we already have the infrastructure, the planning infrastructure in place to go ahead and account for that type of growth. Yes, we need to build schools. We need to build them faster. We need to build them. We need to locate sites. We need to do traffic studies. It's going to be really important, though, for us to ensure that we engage the public as we continue to scale up, because part of the concern and part of the sensitivity that the community feels is all of this is going up around us. And with that comes additional traffic, additional noise, additional risks. So because of all of that, are we engaging our community throughout? Are we addressing their concerns? Can we be sure that we're getting ahead of the story before the story kind of gets us?
Right.
And so we cannot overly communicate. We cannot over communicate to our community. And I think that that's one thing that I really want to focus on, is making sure that we are very transparent through this process. And so that's how you build trust. There is a social contract that exists between school districts and the communities that they serve. These contracts are very, very sacred and important to me. And so the best way for us to do that is to have that honest, ongoing dialogue where we may not always see eye to eye, but at least we know why we're doing certain things. And sometimes when people understand the why, it gets a lot easier. But it will take a group effort in order to account for this growth. So then everybody is considering everybody else's point of view, especially when you've got the county commission, the developers, the school district working together to ensure that we can provide the right amount of services for the students that are moving in.
Well, I appreciate it. I think that's spot on, the answer right there. And you have been all morning. And it was a perfect segue, by the way, to say, I hope you could come back one more time. We would be glad to help you over communicate.
I would love that, Keith. I really would. I really appreciate the opportunity. You're my first interview. Obviously, today is my last day in my old job. And I'm looking forward to starting tomorrow. I'm not somebody that likes to sit around. I wouldn't have been good if I had time between when this job ended and my new job began. I'm a worker. I'm looking forward to getting to meet as many folks as I can and getting into the work, and getting my hands dirty with everybody else. So I can't wait to get started tomorrow night.
Well, I tell you, we have had a huge amount of people reach out to us and say that they are absolutely supportive of you, and all over the community from a wide range of positions in the county. And I assure you that we are very much hoping that we can help you in any way that you need us to. Like I said, your answers were great today. I can see why they chose you. You certainly are the man for the job, and it's a big job, no doubt about it. But you are the man to do that job. And so we're very excited for you to be here in Osceola County. And we love the school district very much. Some of our best friends are teachers. They're some of the best people in the world. So we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Keith. I'm glad to be here. It's a real blessing for me and my family. So thank you so much.
You got it. We appreciate you very much. Again, some of this will be repurposed. We'll put it out in a few different ways so people get to hear what you're saying. And like you said, a lot of media outlets are going to be there wanting to hear from you. So we appreciate you again very much, sir.
Thank you, Keith. Take care.
You got it. Again, this is Keith with Positively Osceola, along with the next superintendent of the school district of Osceola County, Dr. Mark Shanoff, together making a positive difference in and around Osceola County. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.